Nancy Pelosi arrives in China and talks about the experience and how she says that the US needs to be doing more for semiconductor companies that she now has a bunch of stock in. So we'll talk about that and the push for democracy that's coming out of the Speaker's office right now. In other news, California ends leasing for new oil and gas drilling in Central California, and looks like they're going on a stop for fracking as well. So we'll talk just a bit about what that means and where we go from there. The Supreme Court approval actually goes up after Roe v. Wade is overturned, surprisingly. So we'll talk just a bit about what that means and what this means going into some of the new states. I know that we'll be talking about Kansas. I don't have an article. We'll probably be talking about that tomorrow and their abortion amendment, but we'll be talking just a bit about that. And Florida offers a "Don't Tread on Me" license plate to veterans right before Ron DeSantis rejects the view and says, no, that's okay. I'm not going to go on your show. It is going to be all of this and more. You are my favorite breakfast tacos. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Ed Heads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We have got a shotgun shot of news coming from all different directions today. Will we get through it all? Probably not. There's a bunch here, and I did get started a little bit behind when I realized that I had to get up and organize this entire mess. So it flows in somewhat of a... There's a knife under my elbow. That's odd. So it flows in somewhat of a normal direction here. So we have got to come back, and we've got to come back out here and figure this out. Looks like we'll be talking tomorrow too, by the way, with China and Taiwan trade restrictions, which, I mean, if anybody is a fan of the Jedi and the Star Wars universe, we know what happens when that starts. And I guess the burn pit bill did get passed. Does it go over to the House? Did they take some stuff out? Well, we'll be talking about that tomorrow. So what we've got to do right now is get into what we've got to talk about today, and that is finance, Nancy Pelosi, California. There's a lot of stuff about California, a bunch of stuff about Florida. It's going to be an interesting day over here on Contemporary. So let's get into it. But before we do, make sure you guys go check out the great creators who are going to be helping us launch the website, where you can find all of your news, culture, commentary from people who are just like you, from people who've had to make some of the same decisions that you've had to make. Not those people that sit there and wear suits that cost more than your house, but rather people like the Daily Ignoramus, Steven over there, great guy, the Porch Boys, the R-Rated Conservative, the Breakdown with Prickenoff. Also, make sure you go check out Tweets by Brit and KTZed over on Twitter. Go and follow them. And stick around here on Friday after the show. Gates open at 2 o'clock Central Time, so we'll be going down and checking out that. I got to talk with somebody who might actually be a cameraman for this, but I got the time out. And I'm going over on Friday to go and walk around, do some man on the street stuff at the Trump rally. I think it's going to be an interesting time. I think we're going to get some new viewership in here, some new people coming in, hanging out. I know that we got some new people coming in after the Atlanta rally that KTZed went and streamed for us, so that'll be fun. Maybe we'll get some election denier talk over on the channel too. We don't know. It's the fun part of Man on the Street. You don't know what's going to happen. I like doing Man on the Street stuff. It's kind of fortunate, I think, that I live so far away from where most of the political strife happens. But I do miss, going down to Kenosha, walking around, seeing what's happened out there, seeing people trying to rebuild their lives. So more Man on the Street is in order, and we're going to be doing that on Friday here. So join us. Same channels. That will be starting, not sure exactly what time, because I'm not sure what it's going to take for parking, traffic, etc. to get there. But yeah, I know that the man goes down and talks at 7 Central Time, and we'll probably be streaming that as well. That's going to be a hard one to get a bandwidth out from because, everyone else is going to be streaming it too. But we will see what we can pick up. We'll see what we can pull. Let's get into the news of the day, and let's start with the Dow, which tanked yesterday. Well, not tanked, 1%. But still, it's not good news coming off that. Dow dropping to 32,396.17 throughout the day yesterday. It tried to stage a rally, but it did stay down throughout the entire day. It tried to stage a rally and come back up and beat the previous close. It just couldn't pull it off, and then it tumbled back out through the day because, well, people are nervous about where they're going to get their cheap Chinese crap from. They might have to buy something made domestically. Oh, the horror of something like that. But the markets react. It does look like the futures are going to turn back around and come back up. So we'll see what happens with that. Dow futures climb ahead of key economic data. AMD dives on weak guidance. I believe that's the one that we have up here right now. So we'll be talking about that. Looking in at Bitcoin. Bitcoin took a rally just today, diving at the very beginning of the day and then just climbing its way right back up to 23,441.70 is where we're at right now. On today, that is up 2%, or $448 but we'll bring it out to 5 days and see what we did throughout the day yesterday. And it does look like another rally did get staged throughout the day yesterday, and then it tumbled. I tried and it tumbled again, and now we're sitting back at where we're at right now with that rally. So we'll see what happens with that, where that goes, and what we do from here. Bitcoin, of course, usually not your preferred method of savings or investment, but it is a very, very good indicator as a non-US dollar-backed cryptocurrency, and also the safe one that Soccer Mom America can come back and invest in. It's usually a quick indicator of what the economy is going to do in the shortest of short terms. And it does look like that's going to climb yet today. So we'll continue to watch that, see where that goes, and what we do from there. Fuel took another significant drop in Wisconsin. Madison area is down to 346. Kind of glad I waited right now, because I try not to wait until the gas light comes on in the truck, even though I kind of do most of the time. And just for doing short-term driving stuff, because I don't usually, with as much as I work, I usually don't take long trips. So I'll usually just throw a 40 in here and there and, worry about it every couple weeks. Well, I was looking at, I'm under 100 miles left on my tank right now, and maybe I got to go back and grab some fuel, but I want to wait right now for certain reasons. And then come to find out that yes, today it has dropped again. So 346 in Sun Prairie, 346 in Madison proper. We do have some other variations here. 349 at the Costco in Sun Prairie, the Woodman's on Gammon Road in Madison, and the Garden Asian Market on University Avenue in Middleton. So a little bit of a 3-cent jump, but that's a 20-cent drop over what we saw yesterday. So a little bit more reprieve coming off of this, and hey, now we're going to get all these tweets again. Biden made the gas drop for 50 days in a row. So that's what we see off that. Let's grab one from IBD and see what's happening there. From Investors Business Daily, Dow futures climb ahead of key economic data. AMD tumbles on weak sales outlook. From Scott Latonin, Dow futures climbed Wednesday ahead of new economic data, while AMD stock tumbled 6% on a weak sales outlook. So this, by the way, this article is probably going to tell you all the glowing things about how great the economy is doing. But the next finance article, the second one, I'm going to ask you as we read the headline, does this sound like an economy that's in good order right now? Key earnings movers on Wednesday include AMD, Airbnb, CVS Health, Evolent Health, PayPal, SolarEdge Technologies, and Starbucks. Airbnb tumbled 6% on weaker than expected revenues. CVS rallied 3% after beating quarter 2 estimates and raising its full year outlook. Evolent jumped 8.5% on strong earnings and sales results. PayPal surged 13% after topping views and adding $15 billion with a B billion dollars to an advertisement. Let's go do the IBD Virtual Trading Summit. To its stock repurchase program, SolarEdge dove 12% after missing target revenues, and Starbucks rose about 2% in morning trade. Tesla traded up about 2% early Wednesday. Elsewhere, the Dow Jones tech leaders Apple, Microsoft were scarcely higher before today's stock market open. In the strengthening stock market environment, Dow Jones stocks Chevron, United Health, as well as Cheniere Energy, ExxonMobil, Quanta Services, Ulta Beauty, and Vertex Pharmaceuticals are among the stocks to watch. Keep in mind, the ongoing stock market volatility is a reason to stay more conservative despite recent signs of strength. Quanta, United Health, Vertex are on the IBD leaderboard. Chevron and Exxon are featured in this week's Stocks Nearby Zone column. Exxon was Friday's IBD stock of the day. On the futures, ahead of Wednesday's open, Dow futures gained 0.4%, the S&P rose 0.45%, and the Nasdaq climbed 0.4%. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate to actual trading in the next regular stock market session. Among ETFs, the Nasdaq 100 tracker Invesco QQQ Trust moved up 0.5%, and the SPDR S&P 500 ETF, which also is an ETF on the Dow, which I didn't know until very recently, gained 0.5%. The 10-year yield ticked higher to 2.78% Wednesday, adding to Tuesday's surge to 2.74%. The 10-year yield is rebounding after hitting its lowest level since early April. Meanwhile, U.S. oil prices climbed as West Texas Intermediate rose almost 1% to above $95 a barrel. An OPEC meeting is scheduled for Wednesday where members will decide on future production plans. The final Services Purchasing Managers Index, Mangers Index, not Managers Index, a feeding trough for animals. The purchasing feeding trough. I'm going to come on a limb and say that was a typo. Index for July from researcher Market is due at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Then the Institute for Supply Management's July Services Index and June factory orders data from the Commerce Department are due at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. These data points are important for investors as they monitor the status of the U.S. economy. So that's what we see coming from that. The 10-year yield has been wild in its shifts. I mean, we were at 253 at this time yesterday. Now it's back up to 278, adding to a surge from 274. Will we get back above 3? Who knows? And I do remember when people were panicking when it was approaching 2. Now we're hanging around the 3 mark, but that's what we see for that. Let's grab this one from the New York Post. And their weird banner ad that's blocked by my ad blocker, where we can't go back and see the title. Here we go. Google searches for Sell My Home Fast spike 2,750%. From Mary K. Jacob. Does that sound to you like an economy that's doing well? How do I sell my home as quickly as possible? Because typically when it comes down to sell my home fast, that's typically I'm hurting for money. I need to do this before I go into foreclosure. From Mary K. Jacob. Within hours of the latest GDP report on Thursday, which raised fears that the U.S. could be entering a recession, is in a recession, online search volume for Sell My Home Fast spiked to a whopping 2750%. This is from yesterday. Wow, was it that soon ago that we got those numbers? Wow, it seems like a year has passed since then. Shortly after the Commerce Department released the report on July 28th, wow, it really was only that short of a time ago, revealing the economy showed negative growth for a second straight quarter, shrinking by an annual pace of 0.9%. Home sellers hoping for higher housing prices to continue are now concerned. Yo, I could have told you that 4 months ago when the market started slowing down. Or 2 months ago when they started doing 0.75% interest rates. The study by luxury real estate brokerage Ruby Home analyzed data from Google Trends for the week of July 25th to July 29th to see how many consumers would react to the news in real time. Spike in the search term above shows that consumers are on edge right now. Tony Mariotti, the founder and CEO of Ruby Home, told the Post, "It's a double whammy. The combination of rising interest rates and contracting GDP fuels consumer uncertainty about home prices. They're coming down. You can't expect to sell your $80,000 home for $450,000. Without it being able to be appraised to cover the mortgage, while on top of it also being at 5.75% interest. Something's got to give here." Maybe we can do that. Real estate brokers see the effects of the changing sentiment at Ruby Home. We've seen a slowdown in the luxury home and second home purchases as wealthier individuals take a wait-and-see approach, he added. Meanwhile, search volume for "what does a recession mean for me" also simultaneously spiked a massive 1,900%. The silver lining today is that we're not seeing 30 bidders on mid-market homes, and there's more inventory on the market than during the pandemic, Mariotti explained. According to real estate brokerage Redfin, analysis shows U.S. housing market has slowed considerably due to decades-high inflation and soaring interest rates, which has put many would-be home buyers on the rental market. This time last year, a 30-year fixed averaged 2.8%. Now it is averaged at a significant 5.3%. So, yeah, that's pretty obvious too. Again, as I said, your $80,000 piece of property on a quarter acre that you could get $450,000 for last year when BlackRock was tainting the market. While interest is at 5.75%, you're not going to be able to get that kind of prices. You might be, for that property, once all the dust settles, be lucky to get 60. But we'll see what happens with that. This certainly, to me, does not look like an economy that's doing well. But don't worry, we're not technically in a recession. We just changed our definitions. All right, let's talk Pelosi from the Associated Press. U.S. Speaker Pelosi arrives in Taiwan, defying Beijing. From Weijong Wu, Eileen Ng, and Lisa Mascaro. U.S. Speaker Pelosi arrived in Taiwan late Tuesday, becoming the highest-ranking American official in 25 years to visit the self-ruled island, claimed by China, which quickly announced that it would conduct military maneuvers in retaliation for her presence. Pelosi flew in aboard a U.S. Air Force passenger jet and was greeted at the tarmac by Taipei's International Airport by Taiwan's foreign minister and other Taiwanese and American officials. She posed for photos before her motorcade whisked her unseen into parking garage of a hotel. Her visit ratcheted up tensions between China and the U.S. because China claims Taiwan as part of its territory, and it views visits by foreign government officials as a recognition of the island's sovereignty. The Biden admin and Pelosi say the U.S. remains committed to the so-called One China policy, which recognizes Beijing but allows informal relations and defense ties with Taipei. The speaker framed the trip as a broader mission at the time when the world faces a choice between autocracy and democracy. Her visit comes after she led a congressional delegation to the Ukrainian capital of Kiev in the spring, and it serves as a capstone to her many years of promoting democracy abroad. "We must stand by Taiwan," she said in an opinion piece published by the Washington Post at her arrival in Taiwan. She cited the commitment the U.S. made to a democratic Taiwan under 1979 law. "It's essential that America and our allies make clear that we never give in to autocrats," she wrote. The Biden admin did not explicitly urge Pelosi to call off her plans. It repeatedly and publicly assured Beijing that the visit did not signal any change in U.S. policy towards Taiwan. Soon after Pelosi's arrival, China announced a series of military operations and drills which followed the promises of resolute and strong measures if Pelosi went through with it. The People's Liberation Army said the maneuvers would take place in the waters and skies near Taiwan, including the firing of long-range ammunition in the Taiwan Strait. "This action is solemn deterrent against recent major escalation of negative actions in the United States on the Taiwan issue, and a serious warning to the Taiwan independence forces seeking independence." So, she's there. She's actually probably leaving right about now because I know she said she was going to do an overnight just to, do this to the Chinese. But she is there, or was there at least, to come out and say, autocracy won't win. We're going to spread democracy around the world. Kind of like the Bushites said in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Let's go spread democracy around the world. And Clinton, you're not getting away with this either, by the way. So, that's what we have for that. Also from The Blaze, Nancy Pelosi says about Taiwan, what the Biden admin did not upon historic visit. Must stand by Taiwan. House Speaker Pelosi published a powerful essay on Tuesday after she landed in Taiwan for a historic visit, saying what the Biden admin refused to say one day earlier. Pelosi became, on Tuesday, the highest-ranking U.S. official to visit Taiwan in more than 25 years. She did so in defiance of the Chinese President Xi Jinping. At the White House press briefing on Monday, the State Department spokesman, John Kirby, reassured the world the U.S. does not recognize Taiwan's independence. That probably sounds like he was scrambling to come back and say something, so they don't shoot down the Speaker of the House. I may or may not have tweeted out, "No balls, Xi Jinping. No balls." The world has seen the U.S. government be very clear that nothing has changed about our One China policy, Kirby said. "We have said, and we've repeatedly said, that we oppose any unilateral changes to the status quo from either side. We have said that we do not support Taiwan independence," Kirby added. Let's listen. Let's listen to Kirby squirm and panic.
In our commitments.
But if the policy hasn't changed, then why was the Speaker being urged not to go?
I don't know that she was urged not to go. Who urged her not to go?
The President said on August 20th that the military doesn't think it's a good idea for her to go.
The Speaker makes her own decisions. What we did was provide her context, analysis, facts, information, so that she could make the best decision possible for every stop, for every overseas travel. And again, I'm not going to get ahead of her or her staff here with respect to the...
We do not support Taiwanese independence. So the official position of the State Department is autocracy rules. But the official position of Pelosi is, let's just give the finger to Beijing and make democracy happen anyway. So that's what we see for that. Speaking of people who are making a profit off the government, Iraq veteran 8888 on Twitter has a proposal here. I'd like to propose a constitutional amendment. Congress shall receive no pay or compensation greater than the median income of the constituents they represent. Which, by the way, I mean, you could have stopped here, and you could have stopped after this word right here, and I think that would have been perfect. End of story. Yes, I will vote for that amendment. But this is not this is not my decision, it's his. Congress shall receive no pay or compensation greater than the median income of the constituents they represent. Congress shall also not engage in trading on the stock market or receive additional income while serving. And every person they know directly to, no family, friends, acquaintances, or any person who would directly benefit from an insider relationship with the sitting congressman. I don't think that's a bad idea. In fact, that's pretty much the thing that I've said right from the beginning. Because it's so easy for them to go back out and make the laws that will affect their the pocketbooks. And if I remember correctly, they themselves cannot directly trade. But their spouses can. Which means that same money is coming into the household. I don't agree with that. They're picking winners and losers, which I mean the government's been doing that for 75 years anyway, but they're picking winners and losers to make them their own selves rich. But that's what we see for that. From the Daily Wire, some Afghanistan news. As the U.S. left Afghanistan, Blinken said Taliban vowed to bar terrorist groups. Now he admits they lied. No way. Hey. I bet you they said they weren't going to go take over Kabul either. We totally will not go take over country. No, the infidels are gone. We will let everything go and be on the government the infidels set up. On the day the Biden admin completed the disastrous U.S. pullout from Afghanistan, Secretary of State Blinken declared the Taliban had pledged to bar terrorist groups from using the war-torn nation as a base. Now he admits that they lied. Okay, most of us knew that on the day that you guys pulled out of there. That was pretty obvious. You morons. Following announcement Monday that the U.S. had killed al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri in a drone strike in Kabul, Blinken confessed that the Taliban grossly violated the Doha Agreement and repeated assurances to the world that they would not allow the Afghan territory to be used by terrorists to threaten the security of the countries. We're going back! We're going back! Bet me, before the end of the Biden admin, we're back in Afghanistan. It was an about face from just under a year ago when on August 30th, 2021, the day the U.S. completed its flawed evacuation, Blinken touted the terror group's promise. You also promised to be out of there by May 1st and then moved the timeline for symbolic reasons to September 11th. So you can kind of understand what they believe a promise means coming from you. The Taliban has made a commitment to prevent terrorist groups from using Afghanistan as a base for external operations that could threaten the U.S. or our allies, including al-Qaeda and the Taliban's sworn enemy, ISIS-K, Blinken said. Blinken insisted the Biden admin would hold them accountable to that commitment, adding, "But while we have expectations of the Taliban, that doesn't mean we rely on the Taliban. We will remain vigilant in monitoring the threats ourselves." On Monday, Blinken seemed to realize the Islamist regime had returned to power after outlasting the U.S. in a 2-decade war that can't be taken at its word. In the face of the Taliban's unwillingness or inability to abide by their commitments, we will continue to support the Afghan people with robust humanitarian assistance and to advocate for the protection of human rights, especially of women and girls, Blinken said on Monday. We're going to nation build. We're going back. Are you ready? Zawrihi, the 71-year-old Egyptian who took the reins after Al-Qaeda after Navy SEALs killed Osama bin Laden in a raid in his Pakistan compound in 2011, was in a warehouse in downtown Kabul when he was killed Saturday. Zawrihi had stepped out on the balcony when he was hit by 2 R-9X Hellfire missiles, a non-explosive drone nicknamed the Flying Ginsu, which has 6 spinning blades that slice through walls or roofs to destroy the target, according to Bellingcat review of the weapon. So, there have been some questions about this going around. As I mentioned yesterday, there are questions going around whether or not this was actually al-Zawrihi. Because of the fact now it's coming to light that there have been rumors that he got killed in 2020. Oddly enough. 2 years ago. Also that he possibly could have died of an asthma attack. So, I don't know. I didn't find anything green checked, verified about the fact that he had died 2 years ago, but it's definitely a possibility. I don't trust this administration, as neither does the Taliban at this point, obviously, which they have no reason to trust this administration. They were promised they were going to have their country back on May 1st. Let's talk a little bit more domestically. From the LA Times, federal government suspends new drilling and fracking leases on public lands in Central California. From Tony Briscoe, California Attorney General Rob Bonta announced Monday the state had reached a settlement with the federal government to halt new oil and gas leases on public lands in Central California until the potential risks of public health and the environment are adequately assessed. The moratorium comes after several years of legal challenges from environmental organizations in the state of California, which accused the U.S. Bureau of Land Management under Trump of opening more than 1 million acres of federal land in California to drilling and hydraulic fracturing without thoroughly examining the potential effects on air quality and groundwater. So, I do want to step back off this and lay some blame where blame is due. Now, would we do well if we were getting the oil and natural gas from that area? Yes. But I am a staunch federalist. I always have been. So the first thing that comes to me is if California doesn't want this industry in their state, or wants to jump through every hoop or try to make it impossible for somebody to go out and do so, that is California's prerogative, whether I like the outcome or not. My federalism stays staunch. And Donald, as much as it probably would have helped the American people, didn't have any right, even on federal land, to go back in and say, no, we're gonna push the issue. We're gonna drill and frack out there. Constitutionally, he probably did, because of the federal lands aspect of it. But under federalism, if they don't want it, they don't want it. If they want to turn those dollars away, those investors away, and let them go and drill in Texas or Wyoming or places like that, that's on their prerogative. They have to deal with their constituents and their GDP. And again, as much as I would love to get to that oil into our system and that natural gas into our system to drop the costs, hydraulic fracturing, more commonly known as fracking, is a common practice to extract more oil and natural gas by injecting highly pressurized water, sand, and a medley of toxic chemicals into underground rock formations. Fracking chemicals have the potential to sully nearby aquifers and release harmful air pollution, linked to the increased risk of asthma, heart disease, and certain cancers. Research also suggests fracking can induce smaller tremors. Fracking is dangerous to our communities, damaging to our environment, and out of step with California's climate goals, Bonta said in a statement on Monday. The Trump admin recklessly opened Central California up to new oil and gas drilling without considering how fracking can hurt communities by causing polluted groundwater, toxic air emissions, minor earthquakes, climate impacts, and more, in keeping with Bureau of Land Management's mission to preserve the health of our public lands. It must reassess the Trump-era mistake. Bonta, along with his predecessor, Xavier Becerra, alleged the federal agency didn't fully evaluate the potential impacts or sufficiently consider how to mitigate them on 1.2 million acres of land in Fresno, Kern, Kings, Madera, San Luis Obispo, and Santa Barbara, Tulare, and Ventura counties. That's a lot of places. Oddly enough, Xavier Becerra's got his fingers into this entire thing too. I mean, who couldn't have seen that coming? Under the settlement announced on Monday, the Bureau of Land Management, the federal agency responsible for overseeing oil and gas development on federal and Native American tribal lands, has agreed not to lease these lands until it finalizes a review that properly addresses these environmental concerns. Another attack on the oil and gas industry. And we'll see how that goes. I was unaware, by the way. I would have to go back and double check and look onto this, because there's a lot of natural gas in Wisconsin. So the fracking argument has been going on for literally years in this country. Longer than I've lived in central Wisconsin. Going all the way back to when I still lived in Kenosha, and probably before. This has been an ongoing fight in my state. I was unaware that they used chemicals when they did hydraulic fracturing. As far as I knew, it was always just sand and water. And if I am wrong, go ahead and tell me. I would be the first one to come out and say, yes, I was wrong about this. But yeah, as far as I knew, it was always just sand and water. And yes, they're also going to come out and say the earthquakes, because they always do. No basis in reality for it, but they're always going to say it. That's not any new information. Well, I'll skip the ABC 7 one. Let's see what else is happening in California. Geico, the government employees insurance company, closes all California offices, lays off workers, report. Yes, by the way, that is what Geico stands for. And I didn't know that until I actually temporarily used them. And then I found that out and I said, nope, can't do that one. Government Employees Insurance Company. From Bradford Betts. Geico has reportedly closed all 38 of its agent offices in California, laid off hundreds of employees, and will no longer sell insurance through telephone agents in the state. Californians can still obtain Geico policies in the state, but only through a computer or mobile device, posing a challenge for those who are not technologically proficient. Which, by the way, is different from the situation I went through when I lived in Mass. The precise reason for the closures in California and massive layoffs remain unclear. Fox Business has reached out to the company for more information. In a statement to the Sacramento Bee, a company spokesperson declined to elaborate on the changes, but clarified that Geico was not leaving the Golden State. We continue to write policies in California, and we remain available through our direct channels for the more than 2.18 million California customers presently insured with us, the company told the paper. The California Department of Insurance, meanwhile, told Fox Business it was following the situation closely. We are monitoring to make sure customers are protected, CDI said in a statement. Dude, I love going, when I do need to go and do something, to my local insurance office and talking to the lady there to go and get things done, make things happen. I enjoy that quite a bit, because I can come in and say, Mrs. Redacted, Go ahead and make this happen. This is what I want. See what you can do about this. And then it gets done. Even talking on the phone gets things done. The mobile app, my insurance company doesn't have a mobile app as far as I know, so I'm out on that anyway. But I just don't understand how you think you can conduct business without an actual location in there. Now, when I first was reading into this, I thought that this was something akin to what I dealt with when I lived in Massachusetts. Now, in Massachusetts, at the time, I think they've opened it up since then, but at the time, you were only allowed to use an insurance company that was affiliated with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So they had state-run insurance companies to make sure that you got the coverage that they wanted you to get, not have a private company come in and undercut them. And it was stupidly expensive too, by the way. Since I had never held residence there, I didn't have insurance through the state run because you have to have a Massachusetts plate and inspection to get the state insurance. But being out there, still having Wisconsin plates on my truck, when I did wreck my truck, I had a brake failure going down a hill. When I did wreck that, the insurance company that I had, which I will also redact the name of, they covered the cost of the accident. They covered my truck, but then they found out that I was going to be staying out there until September of the following year, at least, and they dropped my insurance because they can't cover in that state. And I do have to wonder now if Geico is going to be going down the same road with that. And with all the federal, especially the federal military installations that are in California, I can't really understand how you wouldn't have a government employees insurance company in California. So, that's what we see for that. More California news. Los Angeles okays sweeping ban on homeless camps near schools. All right, let's give credit where credit's due. That's probably a good idea because you have no way to verify or vet who's in there. It's not like when you go down and you're the sex offender and you have to register your address and they say, hey, you're near a school. Hey, you got to move. Like, right now, when you're homeless, it's just you pitch the tent. And that's that, and you really don't have any accountability to anybody else. And if you're the kitty diddler, and you're homeless because you're the kitty diddler, and you can't get employment anywhere, and you can't live anywhere because you're so near a school no matter where you are, then you're just kind of screwed. This is a good idea. This is a good use of government. There are very few of them. This is one of them. The LA City Council voted Tuesday to ban homeless encampments within 500 feet of schools and daycare centers during a meeting that was disrupted by protesters who said it criminalizes homelessness. Not entirely against that idea either. And this is coming from somebody who was on the cusp of being homeless at one point, 8 years ago. The council voted 11-3 to vastly broaden an existing ban on sitting, sleeping, or camping that currently only applies to daycare centers and schools specified by the council. The vote, which applies to both public and private schools, came after a previous vote last month failed to pass unanimously. The meeting was recessed for about an hour before the vote after dozens of people became unruly, at one point chanting, "Shut it down." A second and final vote will still be needed next week. About 750 public school sites are within the city limits, the LA Unified School District. Officials told the Los Angeles Times, which said nearly 1,000 commercial daycare businesses are registered within the city. The next public school year starts on August 15th. Hey look, they're making fun of Ted Cruz. LA is one of many cities struggling to deal with a surge of homelessness that has seen large encampments scattered along sidewalks and sparked public outcry. Supporters of the blanket ban said homeless camps are a health and safety threat to school children, especially because of the disruptive presence of people with drug addictions or mental illness, or people who like to diddle children. The camps are unsafe and traumatic for students, families, and staff as they enter school campuses, Martha Alvarez, who's in charge of the government relations for the school district, told the council. Yeah, this is probably a good thing, and yeah, you maybe should criminalize homelessness. A lot of these people, and I'm not unsympathetic to people who have run into a hard time. Like I said, I've been there before. But a lot of the people that are out there in the homeless camps are doing so to an extent by choice or because they have a sort of mental illness, as is cited in this article, that is going otherwise unaddressed. Get them, especially with all the taxes you pay in that state, get them in and get them the medical care that they need. Not just let them sit out there and talk to themselves in a tent outside of a school. But, hey, when they do something right, you gotta give them credit where it's due, because they don't do the right thing very often. It's California. From Fox 11, more California news. We got a lot of California news today. In a state that I have vowed that my feet will never touch. Fox 11 Los Angeles, citizenship no longer required for LA County jobs because, of course, it isn't. From Alexa May Aspirin. The LA County Board of Supervisors voted in favor of allowing the county to waive citizenship requirements for government jobs. The motion, authored by Chair Hilda I. Solis and co-authored by Sheila Keel, allows the county to hire non-citizens except for positions where being a U.S. citizen is required by state and federal law. Well, that should be all of them. That's why we fill out that funny little I-9 piece of paperwork every time we switch jobs. Because they need to go back and send it to Homeland Security and verify that we're citizens. That's already the law. LA County is a community of immigrants from each corner of the world, says Chair Hilda Solis. Now, before I go into that, I do need to go back and correct myself because this is just citizenship for county jobs, government jobs. Temporary worker visa, and I made the connection to illegals, but a person with a temporary work visa or a student visa, etc., is legally in this country and should be eligible to go and pay and feed his family. But that's not how LA is going to use that. You watch. LA County is a community of immigrants from each corner of the world, said Chair Hilda Solis in a statement. And while our county government workforce reflects the community it represents, there is room for improvement. This motion seeks to make clear that the county, as one of the largest employers in the region, go figure, the government's your biggest employer, strives to be an inclusive and diverse workforce and is committed to not excluding nor allowing citizenship to be a barrier to unemployment. The U.S. citizen requirement will remain in effect for applicants for Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department jobs because of security clearance or any county-appointed positions for peace officers. As of 2018, an estimated 880,000 non-citizens made LA County their home. It's more than that. And yet there are barriers they face for employment in the county, Solis said in a statement. So again, they're going to come out and, I mean, it's going to be framed, of course, as, oh, you're a non-citizen, but you're a legal migrant worker with a work visa. Welcome in. Please take advantage of our large employment status of the government. But in reality, it's, hey, Jose, you want to work for $5 an hour under the table? Have I got a deal for you? From The Blaze. Abbott invites sanctuary city mayors to see border crisis up close and personal, and one has already rejected the offer. From Chris Enlow. Greg Abbott extended 2 Democratic mayors an invitation to the Lone Star State after they complained about an influx of migrants to their cities. Abbott wrote to New York City Mayor Eric Adams and Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, inviting them to receive a first-hand experience of the border crisis that has plagued Texas for nearly all of Biden's tenure. Excuse me. Your recent interest in this historic and preventable crisis is welcome development, especially as President and his admin have shown no remorse for their actions nor desire to address the situation themselves, Abbott wrote. Yeah, has Kamala actually been to one of these facilities? Borders are. As governor, I invite you to visit the border region to see firsthand the dire situation that only grows more urgent with each passing day, and to meet with the local officials who, like yourselves, realize this matter deserves immediate federal action. I also asked you to join me in requesting President Biden secure the border and put an end to this disastrous crisis, he added. The letter directly attributed the border crisis to Biden's reckless open border policies. The background, both New York City and Washington, D.C. are sanctuary cities for illegal immigrants, but that does not stop city leaders from complaining about the migrants flooding into their cities, a glaring symptom of the ongoing border crisis. Unfortunately, Adams has already rejected Abbott's invitation. I'm a little bit surprised that Bowser hasn't as well, but that's what we'll see for that. So, you remember that assurance that Donald Trump was going to weaponize the DOJ, use it to go after his political enemies, that he was going to be a fascist, that he was going to be evil, and it was going to be terrible, and when he said that Hillary was going to jail, that meant that anybody who supported Hillary was going to jail too. Well, funny you should talk about using the DOJ to go after your political enemies. From NBC. Justice Department sues Idaho over abortion ban in the first post-Roe litigation. From Rebecca Shabbat and Ken Delanian. The Department of Justice filed a lawsuit Tuesday arguing Idaho's near-total abortion ban violates federal law, the Biden admin's first legal action to protect abortion access since the Supreme Court overturned the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision in late June. What do you want to bet that this is going to be an attempt to get another case in front of the Supreme Court? In making the announcement, the DOJ's headquarters, Attorney General Merrick Garland told reporters that Idaho's ban violates a federal law that requires medical providers to offer emergency medical treatment. Under the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, every hospital in the U.S. that receives Medicare funds must provide necessary stabilizing treatment to patients who arrive at their emergency departments while experiencing a medical emergency. The 17-page complaint reads, in some circumstances, the necessary medical treatment is an abortion. This may be the case, for example, when a woman is undergoing a miscarriage that threatens septic infection or hemorrhage, or is suffering from severe preeclampsia, Garland said. Idaho's law, which is set to take effect on August 25th, will make a felony to perform an abortion in all but extremely narrow circumstances, the complaint said, including when doctors provide emergency medical treatment required by federal law. Also, I'd like to point this out. On miscarriage or ectopic pregnancy, neither of which is a viable pregnancy to save the life of the mother in that situation. The suit seeks a declaratory judgment stating that Idaho's law violates the Constitution's Supremacy Clause. That's what I think of the Supremacy Clause. And is preempted in conflicts with federal law. It also seeks a judgment that Idaho may not initiate prosecution against or attempt to revoke the professional license of any medical provider who performs an abortion authorized under federal law, The department also called for a preliminary and permanent injunction against the state of Idaho to prohibit enforcement of its abortion ban when it conflicts with federal law. But see, the problem here is it's not going to stop. And the other problem is, it's the coat hanger joke. Oh, well, I'm just going to puncture my cervix with a coat hanger because then I go into miscarriage and then my life is at threat. There was an easier way to not get pregnant. But they always use these non-viable pregnancies to go back to try to get us back to on-demand up to 9 months and up till the baby's crowning. So, I guess we'll see what happens with that. But again, I remember all the way back to 2015 when that was the big concern. Is, oh, well, evil Donald Trumpler is going to use the DOJ as a political weapon. On the other end of the spectrum, from Insider, which Insider is going to twist this as a bad thing, but I'm sorry, this is based beyond based. Georgia will now let people claim an unborn child as a dependent on their tax returns after the Supreme Court throws out abortion rights. From Rebecca Cohen. Georgia will now allow people to claim their unborn feti as dependent on their tax returns in the light of the Supreme Court overturning abortion rights in June. We're already on the propaganda machine. The state's Department of Revenue, in a statement, said the department will recognize any unborn child with a detectable human heartbeat as eligible for the Georgia Individual Income Tax Dependent Exemption based. I mean, if you just eliminated your taxation, you wouldn't have to worry about any of that because taxation is theft. The state's Department of Revenue, let's see. The new ruling went into effect on July 20th, based. The statement said that if any individual has an unborn child with a heartbeat, which may occur as early as 6 weeks gestation, the statement said, from July 20th to December 31st of this year, the taxpayer may claim a dependent personal exemption from the amount of in the amount of $3,000 for each unborn child, based. There will be a designated section on the form to designate the fetus as a dependent for tax year 2022, based. The Georgia Department of Revenue added that relevant medical records and supporting documentation will be necessary to prove the taxpayer qualifies for the deduction, unbased. The Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in June, ending the constitutional right to an abortion in the U.S. that never actually existed. The fetal tax deduction was part of a larger 2019 law that would ban all abortions in the state after a heartbeat is detected in utero, Reuters reported. So, a couple things with this. Now, first and foremost, this completely disarms one of the big arguments that feminists and sacrificers to Moloch try to use for this. It's say, well, it's not really a person because you don't claim it on the taxes. As far as this goes, I like this. I don't like the fact that they have to do a whole bunch of paperwork for it, but, it is what it is. It's what the government does. And yes, of course, Reuters is going to throw their editorial spin on this because evil Orange Man, evil Supreme Court. And I would love to see this go further, too, by the way. What's the other thing the pro-aborts say? Well, a man should be responsible for child support from the moment. I mean, if this is what it's going to be, then the man has to be responsible for child support from the very, very second. I bet you that'll get things to change. Don't do it. As soon as you know you're pregnant and can figure out who the father is, throw his ass on the hook for child support. Excuse my language. Absolutely. Like yesterday. You should have been doing that anyway. Also, there's this weird state contract in most states, especially it works for heterosexual couples. You can go to a courthouse or you can go to a church and get this contract signed. That will make sure that the man that you sleep with that got you pregnant will act in the best interest of you and your unborn child, lest he be on the hook for certain sums of money to keep your standard of living up and certain standards of money to keep your child's standard of living up. There's already a certain contract that you can use for that. I think, yeah, I see the comment about the woman said she may as well murder a rapist, and a bunch of fakes said, yes. Yes, you should. And thanks for using the emote there, Gaines. That's perfect for that situation. Yes. Should father be on the hook for child support as soon as I find out I'm pregnant? Yes. From the Daily Wire. I hope you get raped. Pro-life teen says she was repeatedly punched in the head while canvassing. Releases video. Do we have the video? Yes. A pro-life teen volunteer was physically assaulted and harassed on Sunday while she was canvassing in Kansas for an upcoming ballot initiative concerning abortion, the teen claims, which I believe did not go in her favor, by the way. Grace Hartsock, an 18-year-old volunteer with Students for Life Action, says a woman inside one of the homes she canvassed chased her, shoved her in the chest, repeatedly punched her in the head, and cussed at her. Police report has been filed. It's unfathomable that the pro-choice movement claims to be pro-woman and yet attacks women who don't agree with their narrative, Hartsock said in a statement. It's not surprising to me that a person who advocates for violence in the womb wouldn't hesitate to attack a pro-life woman like myself. In a blog post at SFL Action, Hartsock recalled stopping in a home where a woman politely told her, "No, I'm sorry, I don't think you want to talk to us." Before Hartsock turned away, the teen heard another voice from inside the house yelling expletives. "Don't apologize to her, Mom," yelled the woman, who was presumably the daughter of the person who answered the door. When Hartsock went to leave, the woman yelling at her allegedly ran out the front door and began chasing the pro-life activists. The woman shoved Hartsock in the chest with both hands and began hitting her in the head with closed fists. Hartsock attempted to protect herself and leave while the resident's mother told her daughter to stop the violence. The SFL Action post details. My first question is for the person who was taking the video, why didn't you stop this? But we're going to watch the video. So we only get 6 seconds of that. I don't know if that's for YouTube's algorithms or to keep them from getting it taken off the air. So yeah, I thought we were going to get more of that. But yeah, when your religion is threatened, and their religion is the state, and they need the sacrifices to Biden. Here's an interesting one. From the Blaze, Supreme Court approval actually goes up after Roe's overturned. Partisan approval gap highest on record. From Chris Enlow. American approval of the Supreme Court actually increased after the historic decision overturning Roe. Despite outrage from pro-abortion activists, overall approval of the Supreme Court has ticked up 3% compared to last year, a new Gallup survey found. September 2021, overall approval was 40%, this year 43%. The poll was conducted between July 5th to 26th, which means the survey measured reactionary feelings related to the overturning of abortion precedents and the reaffirmation of the Second Amendment. Still, public approval for the High Court has been on a downward spiral for several years. Public approval was below 50% from September 2011 until July 2018, remaining above 50% until last July when it sunk to 49% according to Gallup data. However, the most significant finding from the Gallup survey is just how tribal the court opinion has become. Just 13% of Democrats told Gallup they approve of the Supreme Court right now, while 74% of Republicans said they approve. Yeah, you shouldn't have been really surprised by that, but we'll watch that go. Hey, are you guys ready for a Dash Dabrowski video? This crazy guy. We talked about Andrew Yang and the Forward Party yesterday, and this guy has been going on a tangent and a tirade about the Forward Party. Because apparently democracy means getting rid of all your competition and not letting your voters decide. So let's listen to what this guy has to say.
Andrew Yang, what are you doing? I just saw you tweet about how the Forward Party can throw better parties than the DNC. Are you kidding? You're talking about parties in the middle of a GOP fascist movement where they want to outlaw gay marriage. They want to outlaw contraception. They want to take away women's rights to make their own reproductive health care decisions. They don't believe in climate change, and they want to arm teachers with assault rifles instead of removing the weapons that kill the children at schools. And you have the audacity to talk about parties and spend all of your time attacking Democrats, going on Tucker Carlson's show, going on Newsmax. I'm sick of you. I'm sick of David Jolly. I'm sick of Jill Stein. I'm sick of Miles Taylor, and I'm sick of all of these third-party candidates who are aiding and abetting a fascist movement. Get on board with the Democrats or step down. Nobody wants you. You're not going to win, and you know it. Sit down, Andrew Yang.
You can't say nobody wants Andrew Yang. I want to see what happens when he runs. Yeah, this is definitely a person who's totally stable, right? Absolutely stable. We're going to lose democracy by forcing people to vote for one way or another. Nobody even noticed my comment on this. I want Yang. Give me a Warp 9. Traveler 1701 says, dude, I'm generally in agreement with you, which is 3/4 of your problem right there. But you got to figure out a better way to get your message across. This face isn't working. And no way this will work in a courtroom. If you actually intend to practice and you aren't just auditioning for the young turds. John the Harris, Insurrection Adjacent, says, he's too stupid to be a lawyer. He is.
Andrew Yang, what are you doing? I just saw you tweet.
This dude does this like every day too, by the way. It's only a few of them that actually get passed around, but that dude, like, I go look at his page all the time and he does this every day. From the Wall Street Journal, Biden names monkeypox czar amid criticism of federal response. From Liz Esley White and Stephanie Armour. President Biden on Tuesday appointed a national monkeypox czar. A bid to improve the federal government's response to the outbreak. Robert Fenton, the Federal Emergency Management Agency regional admin and former acting head of the agency, will serve as monkeypox coordinator, the White House said. Dmitry Daskalakis, current director of the CDC's Division of HIV Prevention, would work as his deputy. The pair will guide the Biden admin strategy on monkeypox and help increase the availability of tests, vaccines, and treatments, the White House said. The coordinators will respond with the urgency that this outbreak warrants and enable the U.S. to further accelerate and strengthen its monkeypox response, said Anthony Fauci, chief medical advisor to Mr. Biden and the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Well, I know I'm safe. So, I could really not give a damn about who this person is, because none of his advice will pertain to me. I don't give or receive it in the behind. And the only time I really will is when the federal government decides to come back and put me in prison for whatever reason they want to go and put me in prison. They don't really need a reason. They'll just do it because I speak out against them. Two congressional Democrats call for Biden replacement. From Mary Margaret Olahan. Two congressional Democrats have voiced opposition in recent weeks to President Biden running for a second term amid polling showing that most Americans think Biden should not run again. Dean Phillips and Angie Craig publicly call for a replacement of the president, make them the most high-profile federally elected Democrats to voice opposition to another Biden term, Axios reported on Tuesday evening. I think the country would be well served by a new generation of compelling, well-prepared, dynamic Democrats who step up, Phillips said on a local radio show last week. Asked if he would support Biden in 2024, he responded, no. I think Dean Phillips and I are in lockstep, in alignment with that, and I'm going to do everything in my power as a member of Congress to make sure that we have a new generation of leadership, Craig told Minnesota Post on Tuesday. Are you going to run? Because that would be political suicide for you if you ran. Not saying that you wouldn't do a good job. I don't know anything about you. What I'm saying is the DNC machine, who is out to protect people like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, etc., would end your political career post-stat. You wouldn't even be able to get a job as a dog catcher anymore. And you know that. You know that quite well. Here's one for you. This is one that's really going to shock the rest of you here. An opinion piece from The Hill. AOC biscuit is the Democrats' best shot against Trump in 2024. From Michael Starr Hopkins, opinion contributor. The views expressed by contributors are their own and not the view of The Hill. The views expressed by The Hill and the contributors are the views of the contributors and not the views of Contemporary or Turns of Pages Productions. When Barack Hussein O came out of nowhere to win a Senate seat in 2004, it almost felt preordained. It was. As if he were the person we had been waiting for to breathe fresh air into the Democratic Party. Not quite. Good try, but not quite. Flash forward to 2018, and the meteoric rise of a 29-year-old bartender from Queens feels eerily similar. She has been unafraid, unapologetic, and unwilling to bend to the will of Washington. She's a force to be reckoned with, and in 2024, Democrats are going to need her enforced to reckon with Republicans. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Chavez, D-Twitch, is less of a personality and more of a movement. Yes, the smart, photogenic congresswoman is the face of a rising progressive movement. But she's also the future of the Democratic Party. AOC Biscuit has cultivated a following beyond politics. She's an influencer in its purest form. Her ability to relate to her supporters and allow them a glimpse into her private life is a blueprint for Democrats trying to act less like mannequins and more like humans. She's the voice of a movement that began after the banks were bailed out by the government, while homeowners were left to default. The simplicity with which she talks about everyday struggles hints that she's not just a persona for consumption. No, the simplicity with which she talks is because she doesn't have the IQ to expound on a thought. She isn't beholden to corporations, that's a lie. Is a prodigious small dollar fundraiser, that's a lie. And could out-Trump Trump like no other politician's been able to. That is yet to be seen. If Bernie Sanders is the Godfather, Chavez is Michael Corleone as the architect of Medicare for All, a $15 minimum wage, and numerous other programs that are now mainstream. Bernie's place in history has already been solidified. While Sanders may disagree with some of the progressives in his caucus, his worth carries major weight. Bernie passing the torch to AOC Biscuit and recruiting her to run for president would be bold and would strengthen and solidify her base of supporters before she even gets out of the gate. I don't know, dude. AOC has the ability to tell the story of her generation. She's Barack Obama. Barack Obama was an actual progressive. I love Obama, but he was a moderate who sounded like a progressive. No, he was a corporate-owned Democrat. That thing where it sounds like he was preordained, he was. He could come back out and smoothly tell you that he was going to go back and do everything for you by executive orders and actions that he doesn't have legal access to. And then go back out and toe the party line, the corporate line. Cortez is the same way. She's not going to do anything for you. She'll make outrageous claims and big asks, and then they'll get shot down, and then she'll continue to go back, run out, and bomb brown kids in the Middle East, and run her corporate lines and be owned again by Nancy Pelosi and George Soros. Speaking of progressive programs, from the Blaze, from a $114 billion profit to a $197 billion deficit, the federal government might lose big on student loan debt. No way! It's almost like we've been warning about that since they started talking about forgiving it all. From Candace Hathaway. The ongoing federal student loan forbearance that was initiated during the height of the pinko pox shutdowns might result in a $197 billion loss, according to the Government Accountability Office. A federal watchdog, this loss includes all loans issued in the last 25 years. Student loan payments have not been required for borrowers for nearly 2 years. The relief program not only waived the monthly fees, but enacted a 0% interest in the meantime. The program was initiated by President Trump and continues under President Biden. There have been 26.78 million borrowers with home loans in forbearance since March of 2020. Presently, payments are scheduled to resume on August 31st, but at the last minute, they're going to get pushed off again until we have a Republican president. The GAO estimated that loans created between 1997 and 2021 would cost $9 for every $100 lent by the federal government. Expectations prior to the forbearance predicted the loans would profit $6 for every $100 distributed. While 2 years of payment relief certainly did not help the situation, the federal student loan system was already facing problems. Prior to the pinko pox, student loan debt far surpasses credit card balances and auto loans. In 2022, Americans are burdened with a cumulative loss of $1.7 trillion in student loan debt. Today, the average loan balance at graduation is $30,000, a significant spike from 1980, when the average loan balance was $12,000. Yeah, that's what happens when the government gets involved in stuff. Who could have seen this coming? Speaking of school, the ACLU. These are backwards, but these are actually the same thing. In a thread. Breaking! We filed an amicus brief today urging the Supreme Court to protect universities' ability to consider race in college admissions. Ending these considerations would ignore our country's present-day racial inequality and threaten diversity on campuses everywhere. Well, yeah, when you only get the best and the brightest, the people who you've redlined into neighborhoods where the teachers don't care, aren't going to have the same opportunities and the same abilities to get into these colleges. Students for Fair Admissions is suing Harvard and the University of North Carolina to prevent race from being a factor in the admissions process. Not talking about race doesn't erase discrimination. It ignores the ways that structural racial inequality impacts students. All students deserve equitable access to higher education. Along with ACLU-Mass and ACLU North Carolina, we're fighting to protect academic freedom and the university's ability to grow a diverse student body. From the Davis Vanguard, ACLU files amicus brief with Supreme Court to uphold the university's ability to consider race. Which sounds relatively racist to me, by the way. Apparently Peter Meyer lost his primary and Liz Cheney is next. I'm kind of waiting to see what's happening with the Kari Lake race. I'm kind of curious with that. It kind of looks like she might have pulled ahead. I haven't been able to find any accurate trackers that weren't behind a paywall, so I know we'll probably be talking about that tomorrow, and, you know, honk honk, the person who was endorsed by Pence is probably going to be the winner, oddly enough. From Ashleen Herarte, the ACLU of Mass and the ACLU of North Carolina filed an amicus brief on Monday in the U.S. Supreme Court, urging it to uphold universities' ability to consider race in college admissions. The ACLU, with the support of Harvard University and the University of North Carolina, argued colleges have an interest in student body diversity, which helps further academic freedom and equal protection, and because of this, the Supreme Court should uphold higher education institutions to consider race during the admission process. Fewer Jews, fewer Asians, more black. That's what this translates to. So, I guess we'll see what happens from that. Here's one that was breaking, by the way, right while we were live yesterday. And she was proud enough to post this herself. Apparently, this is somebody yelling at somebody in Home Depot, which turns out probably to be a massive progressive, as from what I was gathering from this while we were on air.
Mommy? You heard me. Say it again. I didn't hear you. What did you say to me? Go tell me.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, you need to leave, man.
He's being rude. You're being rude.
No, I'm not being rude. You need to leave.
I'm buying
No,
things.
you're not any more customer. You need to leave.
Oh, I'm not a customer?
You're not
So then I
customer
want my
in this store.
thousands of dollars I spend here back every day.
No, leave.
Leave.
You need
So
to
then
leave.
give me my thousands of dollars. Give me my thousands of dollars.
No, leave.
Give me my thousands of dollars back.
Leave.
Then give me my thousands of dollars back.
Out.
Cool, you're getting fired.
Bye.
Fired.
Go.
Fired. Fired. I said, I'm not leaving. Call the cops. I've done nothing wrong. I'm trying to buy something. And he's like, I'm not discounting anything. I'm not selling you anything. Get out of my store. Like pushing me out. Like walking me out. Not touching me, but like pushing me basically out. And then I turn around and you're going to be rude. Go back to your country. Go back to your country. Because he wasn't from here. That was it. And I mean this sincerely. For all the people in the back, if you ain't going to fucking respect Americans, go back to your country. Respect is earned, not given. Don't be fucking rude and work in customer service, for one. So I turn around, I say go back to your motherfucking country and learn some fucking manners before you come here. Whatever the fuck I said, spitfire, as always, you know how I do. That was fucking it. Back in New York, the word fag is not really like offensive, but I understand we live in a day and age and everybody's not from New York City and everything is sensitive to everybody who's not from New York City. So the gay guy got really offended when I said for him to go back to his country. Get out of here, you fucking cunt. Go back to your country. Yeah? You ignorant. Go back. Yeah, you this, you fucking cunt. Yelling, screaming at me. So I finally pull out my phone. I'll show you the end of it. Here's the video. Been on the phone in the parking lot still, customer service complaining because that's not how we treat customers. So Mr. Hansen and Jamie are going to lose their job today. This is what happens when we fuck with Amanda Marie Keshner. Okay, bye.
All right, so that was Ashleen Herarte. She was proud enough to post this herself. Apparently, this is somebody yelling at somebody in Home Depot, which turns out probably to be a massive progressive, as from what I was gathering from this while we were on air. she felt that she could post that. And Ken McMillan says, "Hi, Home Depot. Please ensure these two gentlemen are not fired or reinstate their employment if they have been. No one should be abused by customers like that." Home Depot actually replied back to this and said, "Hi, Ken. We looked into this today. Our associates were not fired, and they should never have been put into this position." And then apparently she went and recently doubled down on Facebook too. So we have Reddit. "Go back to your country. Home Depot employees in Tukwila, Washington recently fired after escorting a woman out following her racial and homophobic verbal attacks." But it does appear that they have not been. Currently giving everyone in my Sorter Reporter account. Yeah, what's our account? Let's spread the word. This will be an interesting Team Home Depot build. Nice. I think our account just got deleted. I was looking at it and reading the comments and their posts, and suddenly everything stopped loading and it said user not found. Done for bullying and harassment. Yeah. Former Home Depot employee here from 04 to 10. And that's the standard crap statement every problem customer makes. You'd be lucky if she spent $200 a year on average there. Although they don't have sound on their security cameras, I'm sure they could tell by the interaction that something was going on. Corporations hire employees, train them, and then send them out as representatives. It's time they start trusting their investment rather than taking every single customer's word that, out of the blue, the employees accuse them for no reason whatsoever. Stop being lazy and do an actual investigation. Losing a crazy customer is better for business than an employee trained to help a couple thousand each year. Yeah, she's a van life influencer. She's got some money to throw around if she can afford to drive across the country with our current gas prices. Well, yeah, but she's van life, so she doesn't have rent or mortgage either, so. But she went back and doubled down. Here's an interesting one, and I zoomed out a little bit on this. We're actually going to do that again. Or zoomed in, rather. So I cannot independently verify this. I'm going to come out and say that. Because we have people saying that this is fake, and we have other people saying that this is absolutely true, and all these people should be considered terrorists. But Posobiec tweets out, and he usually does his homework, so he typically doesn't throw stuff out that isn't true. Breaking via Project Veritas, FBI whistleblower leaks Bureau's domestic terrorism symbols guide on militia violent extremists citing Ashley Babbitt. Document references the Second Amendment, Gadsden flag, Revolutionary War imagery, and the Betsy Ross flag. So here is a slightly zoomed version of this. It's very grainy, which is why I do have questions about this. But these are symbols used by anti-government and anti-authority violent extremists, specifically militia violent extremists. MVE symbols are often found on propaganda, online platforms, memes, merchandise, group logos, flags, tattoos, uniforms, etc. Here are the symbols. Boogaloo with a big igloo. The Punisher skull. 2A. Electrical resistance symbol. Black flag, also Gadsden flag, so I wonder what they have to say about a black Gadsden flag. Anarcho-capitalism. Warrior culture. Molon Labe. Greek phrase translates as come and take it, or come and take them. Black flag. Black and white, or all black American flag, is used by some to indicate no quarter shall be given. Also, the Gadsden flag, as said, Liberty Tree. That one I could understand because that would be terror used to affect their decisions. It's literally the blood of tyrants. Revolutionary War imagery, an example, militiamen during the Revolutionary War, and the Betsy Ross flag. Also, common phrases and references. When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. We're everywhere. Expect us. I will not comply. All enemies, foreign and domestic. The Tree of Liberty. I became unreasonable. His name was Duncan Lemp. Well-regulated American militia. MVEs consider the following individuals to be martyrs: Vicky Weaver, Ruby Ridge; Marvin Heemeyer, Killdozer; Lavoy Finicum, MNWR; Duncan Lepp, 2020; Ashley Babbitt, Capital Selfie Fest, 2021. U.S. symbols of militia networks. MVEs may self-identify with 3%ers, American Contingency, Lightfoot Militia, and Oath Keepers. Significant events they may reference: Ruby Ridge and Waco. Notable attacks or criminal activity that inspire MVEs: McVeigh, the Crusaders, and Stephen Carrillo. So, again with Basoviak, he typically doesn't throw stuff around willy-nilly unless he's confirmed it, so I do believe that there's something off of this, but there are about half the people in the trend that was going on last night that were saying that this was all fake as well. So, and nobody with green text, or green checks rather, verified it. Liberty lockdown. We made it, boys. Anarcho-capitalism. Jennifer Cohn tweets out, Mike Flynn and Roger Stone have transformed the MAGA movement into a hellish coalition of Groypers, white nationalists, NAR, Christian-only dominionists, and the Proud Boys gang, the Oath Keepers, 3%ers, QAnon, InfoWars, and the Constitutional Sheriffs. This is bad, which I did reply to this and reminded her that within the MAGA movement, Groypers, who are so whitely nationalist that they worship a small Hispanic man. Details. Just details. The NAR, which that was the only one on there that I didn't know. The Pride Boys, the Oath Keepers, and the 3%ers all glow. QAnon is literally a Democrat op. InfoWars would actually probably go away if you guys would stop feeding it oxygen and giving it attention. And Constitutional Sheriffs, why wouldn't we want sheriffs that are constitutional? Well, I know why you wouldn't want that, but why wouldn't we want that? But the reason that I pulled this up is because of the reply to this from W.C. Madison, who says, Governor DeSantis just issued an anti-government Don't Tread on Me state license plate, which, I'm sorry, is the biggest piece of irony in and of itself. A license plate that you have to pay taxes for, taxes and vehicle fees for, and probably extra to have the custom one that says Don't Tread on Me. That is just peak irony right then and there. Florida's transforming into a threat to democracy. And it's true, by the way. From News Channel 8, WFLA. Florida's new Don't Tread on Me license plate stirs controversy. Yeah, because as cool as it is, that's really stupid. You're going to pay money to the government to tell the government not to take your money. Having a license plate kind of flies in the face of the Gadsden flag in and of itself. Ron DeSantis took to Twitter last week to promote the state's new license plate design. Since then, the responses have ranged from support to criticism. The new plate features the slogan, Don't Tread on Me, accompanied by a black coiled rattlesnake over a yellow background. According to the governor's office, funds from the plate will benefit the Florida Veterans Foundation. The Don't Tread on Me slogan, which was also known as a Gadsden flag, was first flown on a warship in 1775 as a battle cry for American independence from British taxation and rule. Yeah, look how far we've come now. According to Dictionary.com, however, its meaning has changed significantly since then. In the early 2000s, the flag's meaning became increasingly politicized after it was adopted by conservative and libertarian groups who aggressively wanted to be left alone. and their platforms for small government and lower taxes after several supporters of these groups were accused of racism. Many of their critics associated the Gadsden flag as an expression of bigotry, the site added. DeSantis, meanwhile, has claimed on Twitter the plate is intended to send a clear message to out-of-state cars. Don't tread on me or Florida. Dude. This ain't it. This ain't it. Now, it's kind of fun that you do your little LARP and you go back and tell the world that you're not going to be an authoritarian executive order president. And you go back and try to appeal to people to try to get them to pay extra money to the state of Florida. But this ain't it, dude. This ain't it. So, nice try. Gaines, Florida statists will line up for this. DeSantis is a genius. Alright. But also, we've got one from the post-millennial. I think we're going to run out of time before we get to the last few, but we'll only have a couple left when we do. From the post-millennial, Ron DeSantis outright rejects invitation to join The View. It's probably a good thing. Which of the below statements from the host of The View do you recommend our team consider when deciding if the interview will be genuine pursuit of the truth? When asked to join TV talk show with The View, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis declined outright his press office, citing numerous instances where DeSantis has been insulted and slandered by The View hosts. Thanks for the invite, writes Deputy Press Secretary Brian Griffin. I understand that you're sending this request on behalf of your team. Now, I have no idea what this is, but I'm kind of curious.
The other thing, too, is that what we've seen, too, is anytime there is a disagreement with the prevailing narrative, that disagreement is called misinformation. We had this year, we can't forget this, the Biden administration set up the Disinformation Governance Board in order to identify what they perceived of as misinformation. And, that was supposed to...
Yeah, that has absolutely nothing to do with this article. But an interesting side note off of that, I just found a meme with Norm Macdonald pointing out the very obvious. I'll read it. I won't try and drag it up into the frame for right now. Let's see. Yeah, over on the Discord, I had it in there. Huh! It says here in this history book that, luckily, the good guys have won every single time. What are the odds? Dude, Norm Macdonald was based. I don't know if he was intentionally based, but he was based. But are the hosts of The View really interested in hearing from DeSantis about all the important work that he's doing on behalf of Floridians, protect their health or livelihoods, or stand up for the parents and children and defend freedom, he asked, noting that the hosts have really taken a public disliking to the governor and his initiatives. Which of the below statements from the host of The View do you recommend our team consider when deciding if the interview will be genuine, pursuit of the truth, or worth the time, he asked, before listing some remarkable statements from the team that seeks presence on their ABC show. And we'll read that, but let's watch this video here first, because I know you guys love watching The View.
Are concerns that access to contraception and gay rights could also be endangered. We all know that. But are Republicans themselves in danger of overplaying their hand by moving too far to the right too fast and possibly alienating just veterans in general? What the hell?
Literally a moderate Virginia Republican who's a strategist who said, I feel like we're on this seesaw where one part culture wars. They are not real issues. As Billy Porter said here on Friday.
All of that is true, and I think that what we're saying here is true. But since 195 Republicans just voted against birth control, this is
things that surround you.
Okay, I don't know what this is going on to. Why Brian Griffin put this up here, but Let's read the response. Here's our response to The View. Thanks for the invite. I understand you're sending the request on behalf of your team. But are the hosts of The View really interested in hearing from Governor DeSantis about all the important work that he's doing on behalf of Floridians to protect their health and livelihoods, to stand up for parents and children, and to defend freedom? Which of the below statements from the hosts of The View do you recommend our team consider when deciding if the interview will be genuine pursuit of the truth or worth the time? Joy Behar, August of 2021. You're just short of calling Governor DeSantis a negligent, homicidal sociopath, because that's what he is. She added, what is he doing? He's risking the lives of children, children's parents, and the grandparents for anyone may come in contact with, so he can appeal to his white supremacist base, so he can continue his career and get reelected. Sonny Hostin, June of 2022. Death Santis, I think he's a fascist and a bigot. Anna Navarro, April of 2022. On Governor DeSantis' policies. It's anti-black, anti-gay, anti-LGBTQ plus community, and for some reason the Republican base responds to it. And it's anti-American. It's what happens in Venezuela. It's what happens in Nicaragua. Sonny Hostin on DeSantis' policies, February 2022. It started with CRT, let's remember that, and those are anti-history laws, anti-black history laws, really, she said. If you start coming after black people, what comes next, right? Of course the LGBTQ community, and then women and other marginalized groups. We will pass on this offer. Also, please note, we don't coordinate appearances or events of political nature from the official office. Our role is to serve the people of Florida. Thank you, Brian Griffin, Deputy Press Secretary. Well, good. All right. Let's grab one from CNN. First on CNN. January 6 text messages wiped from phones of key Trump Pentagon officials. From Tierney Sneed and Zachary Cohen. Oh man. This is going to be an interesting one. The Defense Department wiped the phones of top departing DoD and Army officials at the end of the Trump admin, deleting any text from key witnesses to events surrounding the January 6 Selfie Fest, according to court filings. The acknowledgement that the phones from the Pentagon officials have been wiped was first revealed in a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. American oversight brought against the Defense Department and the Army. The watchdog group is seeking January 6 records from former Acting Secretary of Defense Chris Miller, the former Chief of Staff Kash Patel, and former Secretary of the Army Ryan McCarthy, among other prominent Pentagon officials, having filed initial FOIA requests just a few days after the Capitol attack. Miller, Patel, and McCarthy have all been viewed as crucial witnesses for understanding the government's response to the January 6 Selfie Fest and former President Trump's reaction to the breach. No, it's not that he coordinated anymore, it's just his reaction to the breach. All three were involved in the Defense Department's response to sending National Guard troops to the U.S. Capitol as the riot was unfolding. There is no suggestion that the officials themselves erased the records. The government's assertion in the filings is that officials' text messages from that day were not preserved is the latest blow in the efforts to bring transparency to the events of January 6th that nobody cares about. It comes as the Department of Homeland Security is also under fire for the apparent loss of the messages from the Secret Service that day. So, I'm sorry. If these are not archived somewhere in a public record, then the government did something deliberately to make sure that this didn't come back out. Because everything the government does is archived. Not only that, it is next to impossible to lose text messages on modern mobile platforms. I have text messages in my phone from 4 phones ago. From people whose numbers I never bothered to save. And really, honestly, I'd be more concerned about the January 6th Selfie Fest committee, especially after the FBI went through and declared there was no coordination for anything, than for the people who are actually on the ground with all of this. But they are trying to make that one government for the right people, and everybody else is the other. We don't want nonpartisan agencies. We want partisan agencies that will do our bidding. All right, and the last one we'll do, and then we will do something that restores my faith in humanity, something I'm thankful for, and head out of here for the day. From NBC News. Some TikTokers revolted by Gordon Ramsay video appearing to pick a lamb to slaughter. From Kathleen Rosenblatt. Celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay is facing backlash on TikTok from some users after posting a video in which he appeared to select a lamb to slaughter for a meal. On Thursday, Ramsay posted a video of himself climbing into a pen of roughly 10 pristine white lamb. In the video, Ramsay rubbed his hands together and repeatedly saying, "Yummy. I'm going to eat you," the chef said to the group of lamb. So I don't know if I can play embeds on TikTok. I'm trying to refresh this. Or embeds from TikTok, rather. Oh, there it goes. Nope, I just had to refresh it.
I'm going to eat you. Yummy, yum, 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 yum. Yummy, yum, 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 yum. Which one's going in the oven first? You. Oven time.
Based? It's like the left is just figuring out right now where meat is coming from. He then asked, "Which one of you is going to the oven first?" He selected a sheep and pointed, saying, "You." Ramsay, 55, then jumped into the pen, startling some of the sheep. The chef and restaurateur clarified later that no animals were cooked in the making of this video, according to Insider, which first reported on the backlash. Ramsay captioned the video, "The lamb sauce was still not found in the making of this video," a reference to a 2006 meme derived from a scene on his show Hell's Kitchen, in which he asked a contestant for lamb sauce. That's kind of based, I'm not going to lie. And again, our friends on the left are discovering where meat came from. I think I'd like to have some lamb today. All right, we're done. We got through everything again today. We're getting good at this. Even when we have a quite packed show, we get through everything. I like that. Guess who's unprepared at this point in the show? It's me. No, there is some restoral faith in humanity for a little bit for me. Now, a lot of you all know that I have big differences ideologically with the state of Illinois. I think most of you do as well, including those of you, by the way, who live there. I've talked to some of you about this, and you've talked about getting out of there at some point. Because, well, it's a mostly red state that's run by Chicago, even though the capital's not in Chicago. But one thing they actually did right, and I'm really, really surprised by that, is for all that you pay in road tolls and everything else, there's no admission into the state parks. Now, last year I did a very, very aggressive hike at Devil's Lake, just on the other side of the Wisconsin Dells from me. I'm sorry, it is on this side of Wisconsin Dells. Either way, I did a very aggressive hike at Devil's Lake, which is cool. I've been getting more into hiking, exercise, stuff that I can do outdoors. Go outside and touch grass, as I always tweet out when I do this kind of thing. But the thing with Devil's Lake is, after you've traveled there from here, which is 2 hours, at $4 a gallon, you also have to pay, it's like $15 to get into the place. I've criticized Illinois policies relentlessly on this program, in my personal life, and on my Twitter. But one of the things that they did right is that even if you're an out-of-state resident, like myself, you can just drive into the state park, walk in, and do your thing. As far as fishing goes, I believe there's still a permitting process and boat launch permitting process for that, but if you want to go and enjoy their trails, which is something that I've got more into as I go, you just walk into that park and you do it. You set a foot on those trails and enjoy your day. And as most of you saw on Twitter, I put 2 hours in on one of the trails this past weekend. 5.04 miles, which I thought it was 7 miles, but it turned out to be 5. 5.04 miles. 11,000 steps on the one workout, and it felt great. I'm actually still feeling a little bit in my thighs because for as flat as that state is, I actually found a fairly aggressive trail, and it's close enough that you can go and make a day trip. I think it only takes me, like, especially when I go and avoid the tolls, like 40 minutes to get there. I've driven further than that to go to work for more than one job. But yeah, it's a great time. It's a fun time, and people should be doing more of that. One policy that I can come back to a state that I normally hate and say, hey, you got this one right. Doesn't happen often. Doesn't happen very often at all. But yeah, I mean, if you're just going to go for a walk, you shouldn't have to pay huge amounts of dollars to go back and do that. No, yes, I understand the licensing fees to go back and do the fishing and whatnot. I understand that. But just to have a walk, like, seriously. Regardless, yes, I'm getting made fun of for enjoying the government gives off of that. Hey, as much as I've paid in tolls over the years, including the ones that I've avoided now recently, I think I've earned at least a couple walks out of that place. But that's what we have. That's what I'm thankful for. Let's head out of here for the day. Wow, we're really getting good at clearing out the tab bar up there. That's, you know, what are we looking at? Like 15 tabs left over at the end of last week, and now we're sitting here with 3 days in a row where we've finished everything out that we wanted to finish out. It's great. It's fantastic. But we'll be back here tomorrow looking in at the Arizona races and the Missouri races and the Kansas races. So we'll be checking that out, plus the Ohio stuff as well. We will be looking in at the burn pits bill, which it does appear to have passed now. So we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about a myriad of other things that are happening right now over here on Contemporary. So come back here, join us here tomorrow morning for your news and headlines as we go. And we will see you next time on this channel. Thanks again for watching. We will see you then. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.